Yo, here's another output I missed yesterday because I had a crippling stomach greebly situation. As I said, I'm in Thailand and, you know, my system's not quite used to some of the things that are, hanging out in food out here. So I spent a majority of the day yesterday laid out in and out of strange fever dreams and watching Star Wars, getting ready to watch the new movie coming out. So it was a perfect opportunity to watch all of them being laid out. And something struck me while I was watching it, and it's Qui-Gon Jinn in the very, episode 1, and he's telling Obi-Wan Kenobi to chill out, basically, and he says, your focus determines your reality. Now, if you know anything about George Lucas, you know that allegedly he had a really, really difficult time getting the first Star Wars movie made. It was like a really just terrible, arduous process, and a lot of people would have quit, cost a lot of money, went through a lot of early failures in development, and he famously stuck to his vision and has created I think it's like 20 or $30 billion empire over the years, and changed the way that people, look at movie franchises forever. And that was a principle of his, and it's kind of a running theme. If you look at the mentorship through Star Wars, it is a running theme that your focus determines your reality. And I love that. And I love that for a lot of reasons. And putting that over what I was thinking about in the last about Viktor Frankl and the concept of the fact that you're taking each moment, packing it up, and sending it into the past. And what you do in that moment, your intentionality there, over time builds, a monument to you having been. And then again, that having been is kind of the greatest form of being. So your command of your moments is really important. And I think when you are intentional with your moments, you're living through a distinction. And if you're able to live through that distinction of meaning, whatever the meaning is for your life at that period of time, or even moment to moment, if you're meaningfully engaging that moment and sending that into the past and making sure that you're leveling up a little bit every day or every moment, if it's possible. I mean, hey, if you talk to a guy like Gary Vee, that guy's out there saying that he's managing his seconds. He's worried about his seconds. He's not so much concerned about his 3-year plan as he is concerned about his moment-to-moment plan. And that's smart. That's wise. Obviously, you want to have a plan overall. But I think that one of the best tools we have in our arsenal is the ability to create conscious distinctions and move around the world with those distinctions. Like for me, the reason why this is existing in the first place is the concept of the distinction of output. I want to just get something out into the world, what I'm thinking about, and stimulate conversation and build a monument sounds grand, but whatever, have a record of me having been here, and hopefully have that help people, and hopefully have that increase conversations and bring, more enjoyment overall to the scene. That's my distinction, is output. And to come up with ways to increase my output, that's one of my greatest distinctions. Admittedly, one of my biggest weaknesses is completion. I've started a bazillion things in my life, and, maybe a fraction of those things get complete. I'm a musician. I've got I have hundreds of songs started on my computer, and, that will likely just hang out in that, hard drive purgatory forever. And, when you're a passionate person, you kind of wind up rolling from thing to thing because life's exciting and there's a lot of things to be really passionate about. So that's a struggle for me. So output is a cool distinction for me because output, is assuming a certain level of completion. Completion is another powerful distinction you could walk around in your life with. Look at everything in your life as complete or incomplete, for instance. But bringing all that into focus, ideally to look at your moments, you got to have, that awareness of like, okay, I'm setting aside this time to work on this thing that means something to me. Like, I'm maintaining my legacy. I'm scheduling time to maintain my legacy. And it doesn't take much time at all, actually. And so I was thinking of ways, because I've also been, brainstorming about ways to integrate technology and meaning and create a closer kind of lens on, those two concepts to help each other out. One of the things that's worked for me as a musician and that has worked for me in other areas of my life is using hit timers to do creative work. So a hit timer is, if you don't know, it's the high intensity or high impact training. You set interval timers basically, and you can get an interval timer app. I use one called Seconds Pro, and you can program intervals in. So for me, I do like a song interval. It's a 20-minute. I'll write a whole song in 20 minutes. I do set one timer for 5 minutes. I'm building the drums. The next timer, 5 minutes, I'm writing the bass line. 5 minutes, I'm writing, a top line on that. 5 minutes, I'm writing, whatever, doing atmosphere or something like that. And I have all different kind of configurations. And that always helps me get breakthroughs, and that always helps me create quickly when I go to it. And I've actually used it in other areas too for work, but it's a really, really effective concept. And it's just, one thing that you can do to let your focus determine your reality in that moment. Because if you're hyper vigilant about maintaining your focus, your reality just gets, more and more in line with that focus. Another thing I wanted to mention about, distinctions, I've mentioned this to my friends before, I'm sure, but, when you get a new car or you get a new shirt or something like that and you're out looking around, you say you get a new car, you're all stoked about it, and then as you're driving, you realize how many of your car is on the road. Well, that's a distinction. Or you get a shirt, and you see every other person with that same shirt. Or, me, when I shaved my head and grew a beard, I noticed like how all of a sudden the world was just filled with bald, bearded dudes out of nowhere. And while some distinctions are more exciting than others, to be sure, it's powerful when you are walking around with positive distinctions, because you literally will see brand new avenues of opportunity that you wouldn't see before, because your mind is tuned to pick those up, because we're just in a deluge of information all the time online in real life. I mean, it's insane. So unless your mind is tuned to the right frequency and ideally tuned in for what you want and focused on the reality that you want to have, you're going to miss opportunities. Things that look like failure will either you'll just let it be a failure and you'll keep moving, or you'll realize that failure is helping you move towards what it is you're really after, and is in line with your best self. So it's a really, really powerful thing. So again, going back to using something like a hit timer, you just schedule 20 minutes. Take 20 minutes to get something done that you need to do for yourself, that's lined up with something that's really important to you, something you always wanted to do. You know what those things are. It's nagging you and scratching in the back of your head. And for me, it's been things like this and a host of other concepts that I've been working on, brainstorming, and obviously music and art and things. So I'm going to use the hit timers again. I'm excited to reintroduce that to my arsenal. It matches up with all my favorite creative philosophies. My favorite creative philosophy coming from Stephen Pressfield's War of Art. If you haven't read that book and you're a creator of any kind, just stop whatever you're doing and read that book and then continue on with your life. I mean, he's got just the best no bullshit approach to creating I've ever seen. And this sort of falls right in line with that. And basically the idea is just get the hell out of your own way and do what you need to do and set time aside to do it. Some of the things I'm kind of thinking about, in the background right now are the concept, what is the concept of creating an avatar that you can take care of that represents yourself. It's interesting to me that I see, you know, like people taking all this time and effort to, you know, in video games or in real life to raise, you know, a digital creature and feed it and make sure it evolves so you can get new capabilities, move on, or to level up, you know, a character in a video game and make sure it evolves and go through all the motions that you need to go through to level up. But they don't do those things for themselves in real life. And it's a super interesting phenomenon, and I have a feeling that if there was a cool way to pair those two things, and this again kind of falls in line with keeping your focus in plain sight, keeping your best self in plain sight, because I think that's just really challenging these days because everything is just barking at you and trying to get your attention. I think that I'm gonna, you know, continue to brainstorm on that and see if there's anything out there that kind of matches that, because I would like the ability to, you know, keep an eye on my best self and sort of nurture that thing like, you know, like a Tamagotchi egg or something, and have that be reflective in my own life and kind of grow in parallel with that thing. And if you're out there and you want to make that thing immediately for me to use within the next, you know, 3 to 6 months, you know where to find me and make it, and that would be amazing. If it doesn't exist already. But yeah, so I think there's going to be tools out there that I can identify that kind of do something similar to that without being too like data intense. So I'll let you know what I find there. I think that's about it for today. And a side note is kind of interesting. I was thinking about, you know, what I was going to talk about, and I had been spinning on it a lot yesterday. And it's ironic because I was thinking about what I was gonna think about and almost didn't make one today. And the whole point of this is just to share what's going on naturally and let this be as natural as possible. So I'm glad I did this, because this is, once I realized what I was actually thinking about, it made it easier. I appreciate all the positive feedback I've gotten from my friends, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks.